Good morning, everybody. This is Daniel with the Wilderness. We are live at the Women's Encounter North number 7. I have Deron here, Deron Boyer. He is a pastor and a deliverance minister. He just got off stage talking about married spouses and soul
Soul
ties,
ties.
right? Can you talk a little bit to the listeners about what you spoke about on stage?
Mm. Well, the interesting things today we were talking about the passage from Second Samuel, which is the story of David, King David, when right at the end of having his judgment flaw with Bathsheba, and then the confrontation of the prophet Nathan, and the distributing of the curse that followed his behavior, and then we skipped ahead to chapter 13 when it talked about Amnon and Absalom and the daughter Tamar, and so we talked a lot about that story and the little ingredients of that story, because that is an example of a soul tie creation. And we also saw the amplification of the devil behind the scenes in these relationships. Amnon was the heir apparent to King David. He was the one that was going to take over the throne when the time was right. But Amnon had some issues. He had some demons that transferred into him through the curse that God spoke over King David's bloodline. And so he was motivated in the spirit to say, love my sister. I want my sister. And we find in that scripture, that passage, that it actually indicates the reason is because she was a virgin. And so when you look at the story of Tamar, you find that she was a daughter of King David also, but it doesn't mention that. It just says she was a sister to the boys, because women had a lower place of importance in that kingdom, in that generation, and that culture. So Tamar was kind of like, you're exposable, you're expendable, you really have no value. But even the scriptures reflected that. But Amnon had an illicit love and a hunger for her. And this is what the devil does. John 10:10. He only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So the devil is working behind the scenes in Amnon. He's working behind the scenes in Absalom, who eventually killed Amnon for what he did. It was working in King David because King David did no discipline upon Amnon when he raped his sister in an incestual relationship. There's so much dysfunction in that whole story, but the devil was in all of the pieces. And so the point of all of that is to say, like I did this morning, a soul tie is the development and an establishment of a spiritual bond that can occur at any place in your life through varying levels of intimacy from a woman or a male. It could happen willingly or unwillingly, but it's a spiritual bond that is unhealthy and unholy. And so we need to break those things off, because if they're persisting, then they can destroy marriages. They can destroy children's marriages, children's health. There's just so many ramifications. But I know I'm talking fast, but the point is, if we just calm down and take care of the business of doing the Lord's work, renounce, cut off those spiritual ties, reject them, come against them prayerfully and say, Lord, show me what I'm up against and help me to break it off. And the Lord will enable us, will strengthen us. He'll open our eyes to see the things that we've been overlooking all these years. Because a spirit spouse, its main function really is to attack your marriage. And so many people, I've been married 3 times, 4 times. All right, well, what is the soul tie that has been attacking those marriages? Let's find it. Let's figure out what it is. And so anyway, the pain to me in all of this is so many churches ignore all of this. They ignore it. They just dismiss it. They don't have time for it. I have a lot of issues with that, but it's really, to me, I call it a theology of convenience. I don't believe in demons, so I don't have to deal with them. I don't believe in soul ties, so I'm not going to walk through the muck and the mire with my church members to help them get free, because I just think they need to renew their mind and they're going to be okay. And I'm like, well, isn't that convenient?
But it sounds like to me, like you said, it's a matter of convenience, right? They don't want to talk about it. If they don't talk about it, it's not there.
Right.
A lot of people have soul ties. This is something you have to cut off. And it can come in, a soul tie can be created not just from a boyfriend or somebody that you're dating. It could be your parent, your brother, your sister, somebody in the family. You can create a soul tie.
It could be
with you.
inherited through the bloodline.
Inherited through you, yes. So there's definitely so many ways that it can come in. It is something you definitely want to watch out for. Anything else you want to share with them?
Well, and the key ingredient of that story in Second Samuel 13, which is really hard to believe. Now, there's this cousin, Jonadab, that to me is a devil type. And he's the one who gave the bad idea to Amnon to fake an illness, to ask his father to send Tamar in to feed him with her own hands. And then he sent all of his servants out, and then he forced himself upon her and took advantage of his own sister. But then it said this, that twice it mentioned how much he loved Tamar. Something in him just groaned for her. And once he did the deed, it says that he hated her worse than he ever loved her. And this is really, to me, the red flag that a soul tie is present. When your love and affection or desire turns to hate, if there's ever hate, that's a red flag, because hate is not from God. It's from the devil. But see, so many people, and it says women's encounters, so many women come and they're filled with shame and guilt and condemnation and rejection. And they blame themselves for things they did, but they don't realize this is a demonic setup. The devil is stealing, killing, and destroying their identity as daughters, their identity as sisters, their identity as holy. And poor Tamar, she ended up living with Absalom the rest of her life, never got married, never had children. She lived in that shame and guilt the rest of her life. But David was a deliverance guy. He wrote all kinds of deliverance prayers. They're found in the book of Psalms. Why didn't King David take the time to say, hey, girl, let's take care of this stuff? We're going to fight it together. We're going to come against it. But she even told her brother, shame will come upon me if you do this nasty thing. And so we have to assume that she lived in that shame for a long time.
Long time, yeah. And to the listeners out there, ladies, men, you don't have to live in this shame for a long time. If you have a soul tie, if you have a spirit spouse, listen, spiritual warfare and deliverance is real, right? It is as real as you are walking this earth. You probably have more spiritual battles and you're fighting than you think of. Darren, is if somebody wants to reach out and get a session, deliverance session, counseling session with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, there's a number of ways. One, they can contact you,
Okay. So if you message
and
me
then
on
we'll do it
Instagram.
together.
Okay, there we go.
That's a good plan. But yeah, they can reach out to me. My cell phone is published. That's three. They can text me. That's probably easier to get a hold of me. They can email me at darrenkboyer@gmail.com, and it's spelled Deron, but Darren K. Boyer. But reach out to other people, with Men's Encounter, Women's Encounter, Encounter Church and Fate, or Quinlan, or Dot Campus. They know how to get a hold of me. Or you can just do a search on the internet and you'll probably find a website. It's not much of a website yet, but still looking for somebody to help with that one.
Well, y'all hear it out there. He's also looking for somebody to help him with his website. So if
That's
you know
right.
somebody, thank you, Darren. I don't want to share too much because if y'all don't know, listeners, I will have him back on the podcast in about 2, 3 weeks for a full show, and we're going to
There we
go
go.
deep into deliverance and what that looks like and what to expect. Here in a little bit, we will come back more with being live at the Women's Encounter with one of the other speakers. Thank you, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
So it's probably a bad time right